Now, this right here is a perfect example of why most comment sections on the internet have disabilities. I mean, they have to disable the comment sections when they write such garbage articles. And it is out of desperation, by the way. Like, if I was a journalist, I would be terrified of AI because the AI can actually write some articles that do not have to piss people off in order to get a couple of clicks. Because this is the epitome of rage baiting. Like, you put a title like this, and you hope that people are just going to share the article in order to show, like, look what garbage I found on the internet. But the problem with this type of business model is that it's not sustainable. Like, sure, eventually you can write an article that is so outrageous, so batshit insane, that people are going to share it. But it ruins the prestige of a publication, and it makes sure that eventually people just stop reading it. Because if you keep this up, eventually you keep writing more and more batshit insane stuff, and at one point people will go like, I mean, yeah, but it's Salon, right? I mean, this is what they do. They do not hire journalists. They hire cheeky little shits that enjoy antagonizing the public and the internet. And you gotta look at this article as well. Like, I find it difficult to believe that the person who wrote it genuinely thinks that this is true. Like, there is no way that a person can be this uneducated and ignorant. Instead, it's more likely that this has to do with social programming. Like, there is a problem right now in the United States that the far left and the people at Salon have no interest in either addressing or trying to fix it. Instead, they just want to live with it, and they want to sweep it under the rug by hiding what the true cause of the nature is. And you will never discover what the true cause of the nature is if you don't want to even have an honest conversation about it. Now the problem is recent. It's something that's happening particularly in the United States, and then more specifically in New York. It's not something that's happening in my country, for instance, so you can't blame poverty on it, because I guarantee to you Romania is more poor than New York, so it's not the socio-economic factors that blame it. It didn't happen a couple of years ago. So if you want to have an honest conversation, you should start from there. But no, instead it's MAGA, right? Because the Trump rallies are renowned for their over-the-top violence targeting women, right? I mean, Ashley Babbitt was probably the only person that ever got hurt at a Trump rally and was of the female gender, but we're not going to talk about that. And I'm pretty sure that, of course, if this is a right-wing issue, it's happening in the red states of America, and New York is famous for being incredibly red. I mean, the Democrats have been struggling to turn New York blue for decades now. So how do they justify it? How on earth can you possibly tie this level of random violence to the Republicans? Well, apparently in their infinite wisdom, this journalist, Amanda Marcotte, is saying that men are punching women on the streets of New York. As usual with this kind of diffuse and chaotic stories, there's much that is unknown, including how often this is happening, how many people are involved, or whether or not it's all coordinated. So this is actually true. There has been a rise in this type of events that have been noticed on TikTok. So you see social media influencers that are streaming in public, and all of a sudden they get punched. And it seems that it's a random individual. At first, people thought that it may be the same person, but it's incredibly unlikely due to how big New York is, and to have the same guy just teleport from streamer to streamer in order to do this, it's very unlikely. So it's at least different people, and it's most likely not coordinated either. And they talk about how CNN reports that dozens of women have discussed being victims on social media, and CNN interviews 6 of them. NBC News reports there has been at least 3 arrests, and CBS reports that NIPD released images last week of a 4th man who was already punching a woman in Union Square. Even reality TV star Bethany Frankel says that she has been victimized. Women report being assaulted by men of different races and ages. Still, across different stories, a couple of similarities pop out. The alleged victims are mostly young and pretty, and most of them say that they were minding their own business when they were attacked. Some were on their phones or reading on tablets. Others were speaking to friends or daydreaming. Whatever they were doing, they were just living their lives, and it seems it's what enraged their assailants. Whatever the scale of the problem is, it's not surprising that the stories have gone viral and captured the public's attention. While it rarely turns to violence, most women who spend much time walking around in public have experience with men who berate them for paying attention to something other than the man who is now, often out of nowhere spewing in activities. In our modern era, that often manifests with men who are infuriated at women for looking at their phones. But I'm old enough to remember when I would get yelled at for reading books in public. Okay, but like, this is just your personal anecdote now? Like, you assume that the reason these attacks happen is because men are upset that women are living their lives? You don't fucking know. And that you're a journalist, and your job should actually be to ask. Like, if you already have 4 people arrested, why don't you go and interview them? Isn't this what a journalist should do? Like, you can literally find the person which punched a lady, and you can ask them why they did it. But that is too difficult, isn't it? When you can just speculate. Maybe they were high on drugs. Did that occur to you? Maybe they were under the influence of substances, and this is why they acted the way they did. Maybe they were racist. Maybe they didn't like the skin color of the woman in question. There are so many reasons, but you're like, oh, well, this woman was just minding her own business, and this guy just clocked her. I mean, that can be a possibility, but you as an enlightened journalist that is feeding information to the masses should at least do its due diligence in order to verify if your hypothesis is true. But no, you're going to treat it as the word of gospel, and you're basically going to then assume that all of these street dwellers, all of these hooligans are Jordan Peterson fans, because we know that in the ghetto, Jordan Peterson is the star there, right? So they see that, we see it in the male fans of Jordan Peterson, who clamor to his events to hear him croak. Just a story about how lobsters justify their faith in male dominance. So again, like this is what the journalists with their limited intellect managed to understand from what Jordan Peterson was saying, that humanity craves for hierarchy. And we do have hierarchy. Like everything with what we do, in all the systems that we do have hierarchy. Even at this journalist publication, she probably has a boss. There is no such thing. I know, like, they love communism, and they genuinely worship the Soviet Union and North Korea and all of the communist systems that exist that preach equality, but we do not notice this happening with human beings. Like, we are not the ant people. And Jordan Peterson is saying, from an evolutionary scale, if you go even before the monkey, if you go even towards the lobster, like, you notice that there are hierarchies. This doesn't mean like what the journalist thinks it means. It's like, oh, well, it needs to assert male dominance. And by the way, male dominance, what's wrong with that? Like, aren't you begging for male dominance when a crime occurs? Do you not want the police officer to arrive on the scene and assert his dominance upon the criminal? Because at the end of the day, you are basically advocating to the primordial sense of male dominance. When you're saying that women are victimized, you're basically asking, what are the men doing? Like, where are the men that are stopping this from happening? You're not asking for other women to gang up and form patrols in order to lower the crime level in the area. No, you're basically saying, well, why are the men allowing for this to happen? And honestly, it's a good question, right? Because no one wants their wives or their daughters to be victimized, which is why these types of articles are popular, which is why this is concerning. Because if men genuinely didn't care, then these articles wouldn't be read by anyone and they wouldn't be shared. The reality is that everyone cares about this problem. No one likes to know that, hey, in your city, women can get punched at random. Like, this infuriates people. Because again, like, if you have a daughter, if you have a wife, if you have a mother, you do not want to know that she is on the street and she risks getting injured by strangers. So it's something that you want to fix. But you're not going to fix it if you're going to have these types of conversations that even refuse to address what the issue is. And then, of course, she goes on and she blames Ben Shapiro because he set fire to a Barbie doll, right? So again, people in the ghetto are acting up because they're fans of Ben Shapiro. And when he set fire to that Barbie doll, according to this journalist, it's like casting voodoo. It's like he got a little voodoo doll and caused the spell, the magical spell, to happen. telling lies about birth control. Again, right? So because Ben Shapiro told lies about birth control, all of a sudden in New York, and mostly New York, people decided to commit criminal acts. I think this journalist should be hired by the government. I think like this is such a wise person with a level of understanding and insight that I can't even ever reach to even half their level. I mean, they seem to know stuff. Yeah, the government should hire them. Why not? You know, maybe the governor of New York should hire them in order to fix this problem. I'm sure the cities of New York will be much safer with this journalist, Amanda Marcotte, making the rules, dropping down the law. Yeah, banning Ben Shapiro and the Canadian Peterson from speaking is definitely going to eliminate this type of crime from New York. Also, interesting how Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson were speaking for more than a decade now, and this wasn't the problem. But I suppose, you know, it takes time. They are very insidious criminals, and it took time for them to instigate the public to this level. Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro work in mysterious ways. Let me know what you guys think, though, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.